2005, I decided to be, and I quit my previous job to paint full time. And I didn't start. Well, actually, I was a studio painter and plein painter, but because I joined the San Diego Watercolor Society, they have, as you may know, the plein group, right? They go out Wednesday, I believe, and Saturday every month. Yeah, so I started going out with those guys. Maybe some of you are members. Now I think Lori is spearheading, and yes, especially the Saturday one. And I just went on, many locations with this group and learned how to paint plein air style. So I like to share some of the tips I learned. And but I think no matter where you paint, outside or inside, what's important to make a good painting is always the same, or those principles. So I'll be talking a lot about that too. But I will touch upon something particular to working outside. So the route. Okay, so do you see YouTube screen? I hope. Yeah, this is the one, how to pack. Do you also hear me as well? Please raise your hand if you can hear me. All right.
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great.
I can hear you and I see the screen.
Yeah, this I filmed in maybe March, April, springtime. And the water I that's in front of me is the Agua Hedionda in Carlsbad. I made this video just to show you my setup and what to pack. And there's no words, so I'm talking over it. It's just the music behind. But just to give you an idea, how I work when I go outside. So yeah, portability is one of the attractions, I think, the watercolor, and you can pack and then just head out. You don't need so much. But if you are not familiar with plein air painting, what you need and all that, you will take a lot, right? Normally people take a lot, everything but kitchen sink. But you will learn, and after a while, what you really need to work outside. You don't need much. Everything should fit in the backpack. Plus, if you don't work big, usually I use a bigger sheet, but this one I'm using actually watercolor panel. Probably many of you have never heard of it. It's a new product from Raymar. Yeah, and but it's just paper is glued to the aluminum panel. So you don't need to stretch. And the paper they use is Fabriano Artistico. I believe it was rough. I don't remember. It could have been rough or cold press. But anyway, if you use something like this, you don't need to stretch, and just stick that in your backpack with everything else, and you can start painting. And just after a few minutes after you arrive at the scene. So this is the end of the day, sun setting. It was pretty foggy or cloudy. Well, it's quite typical, I guess, in springtime in San Diego and coastal area. So you can see the rays of sun peeking through the clouds, and that was beautiful. But this is a kind of backlit situation Anne and I were talking about before class. But I'm not using black, right? But other things I saw, especially in the foreground, not quite backlit, and they're still getting a lot of sunlight, and also the springtime, all kinds of flowers and spring flowers. That was what I wanted to paint along with the light. Yeah, so like that.
You make it look so easy.
Well, it was heavily edited, so I didn't show the parts so I didn't want you to see. But it was a small painting, and yeah, just to give you an idea and the feel of working outside.
Keiko,
yes.
Do you, when you're painting on a panel, do you approach it any differently as far as perhaps the amount of water that you lay down, or then you would say 140 pounds of arches?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, well, that's the reason why the Raymar people wanted me to test, Yeah, it was a new product. It was not in the market yet at the point. So they needed my feedback. And so I didn't know what to expect actually. And I quite like it, but I also found it was different from the normal setup. You know, I use a sheet of paper attached to maybe a cardboard or in a flat surface, and I put this masking tape all around, just like I did prepare my paper here. Behind it, it's just a one sheet. Behind it, there's a cardboard. So this is what I used to use. But the panel was glued to the aluminum, right?
Right.
And so I thought it might not dry as fast. But actually it dried so fast. I mean, even faster. But I don't really think it because of the panel, it's the weather. It looked like a gentle breeze in the video, but actually it was very windy that day. And even though the temperatures are quite, not high, and you saw I was wearing a jacket, and it was back in springtime, and then near the sunset time, and it can be quite chilly in San Diego, and it was. And so the temperature was not high and low. So I thought, and also attached to the panel. So I thought the painting would dry very slowly. I thought, but it's almost instantly dried. I was surprised, but I think it's the wind. So actually, I did the test. Well, I used the panel inside in the studio to see what if there's any difference. And it was a slow drying process, and so yeah, I need to test more. I need to use it in different conditions and to arrive at I don't know, the decision, what I can say about the panel. Yeah, but also the paper is different. Lots of times I use arches, and that was Fabriano. So paper makes a big difference, and then also the support that you have behind it, and the weather, all kinds of factors, influence the drying time. Yeah.
Have you used any other panels, Federico or or I think it's Felix?
Well, I'm aware of it. I don't know if they still sell it. I mean, a long time ago, I saw those products in the art shop, and I don't think I used them. Even if I did, probably I didn't like it, and I stopped using it, so I don't remember anymore. Okay. Yeah, but I'm not sure though. Those they use good watercolor paper on top of it. Yeah, the paper is important. I mean, support is important too, but more than anything, it's the paper. So if it's not a professional grade paper on those panels you're talking about, I personally wouldn't recommend it. It's just my opinion. But if it works for you, why not, right? So you just have to use it and try it. So, but it's fun. It's always fun to find something new and then try some, working on the different surface with a different color. Anything new is exciting. But eventually you have to like it, right? And it takes time to learn how to use anything very well. So you have to give yourself plenty of time to, get used to it. Yeah.
Thank you.
It does take time. All right. So you may be wondering what I'm going to paint today. And since we're all from San Diego, I mean, it doesn't have to be something from San Diego, but I want to paint a San Diego scene. And then, let's see. Yeah, there's a short video I want to share of the place I'm going to paint. So let's look at it. Very short. Yeah. So, this is Balboa Park, one of the prettiest spots in Balboa Park, and the ponds. But it's,
I'm just seeing your palette. I'm not seeing it yet.
Oh, you didn't see it? You didn't see the video?
Do you see it? No.
Oh, okay.
There. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I didn't share screen properly, and so let's do it. All right. Now you see it?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, so it's a pond in Balboa Park. So I'm gonna paint this scene, but there's so many different views, and you can situate yourself anywhere to create hundreds of paintings at this particular spot, right? But I think what I'm gonna choose is this view. Quite iconic. I mean, many people have done this, and I have painted this maybe a few dozen times. But you know, every time it's different, and so I will do this. I will try it today and see what will happen on the paper. So everybody saw it?
Yeah, when you're thinking about choosing a subject, how do you decide?
Well, yeah, I will talk about it. But I just wanted you to see the photo, you know, so you know what I'm, because you won't be seeing it when I'm painting, okay? So I'll stop share. Yeah, so the plein air, like I said, you need to pack light, right? So you can travel light. And so in a minimum supplies, and that's all you need. So once you arrive at the scene, and so I was walking on the Balboa Park, and you know, many things grabbed my attention and inspired me to paint. And there's so many things and interesting things over there. So, but you know, sometimes it's a really boring place when I go out and paint. You know, Balboa Park is really an exception. You can find so many different things inspiring, but it's not always like that. But whenever I arrive, you know, at a scene, I try to feel the place, you know, and understand the light and also the color feel, general color feel, and then also overall atmosphere. And I try to feel it, not just with my eyes, but with all the senses. I try to let my senses engage, you know, at the place. And so that is really the start. So when I started feeling and becoming a part of the scene, then I open my eyes wider and then just scan the area like I showed you in the short video. I scanned, right? So usually what I paint is the first thing that grabs me, you know. So even at the pond area, if the, you know, this today it's the scene, you know, with across the pond with the buildings in the back, not the botanical garden, the other side. But it could be the opposite side. That might have been the first thing that grabbed my attention that day, and that light, that mood, and atmosphere, whole atmosphere. So I usually try to be very honest with myself. The first thing that grabs my attention, that's what I paint. Okay, so only one. And after that, I just focus. I just look at that scene, that part of the scene, nothing else. And because if I start looking, you know, this side and that side, I'm sure I can find, you know, millions of other things that are nice, right? So I stop looking. I just kind of, you know, use my eye to crop a scene, and I use my eyes like a camera and crop a scene and just focus that area. That is to me so important. So I won't be swayed. You know, if I look around and I am sure, maybe that's better, or, you know, I would just keep looking, and I don't want to be in the situation. I want to start painting right away, right? So usually this part usually takes a few minutes. I arrive at the scene, I don't walk around. I just scan the area, so something, boom, inspires me, and, you know, it's speaking to me. Something is speaking to me, and I set up right there and paint. So it could have been a parking lot, you know. If something speaks to me, I don't mind painting in the parking lot. I don't need to keep walking. And so, yeah, and that's one thing. But of course, you know, after that, I have to be very analytical. So something is, you know, is inspiring me. So, but what is it? Is that a color? Is that architecture? Is that overall feel? Is it the light? Is it that person walking over there? It could be anything. The reason, you know, is different every time. But I need to know what it is. You know, something talk to me. So what is that? I ask myself. And actually, that is oftentimes it's going to be a focal point in my painting. You know, so I have to know, because I always say as a teacher, you have to have a focal point in your painting. And so it's about a design of the painting. Painting without a focal point, it could be very, very nice, I mean, you don't really need it every time. But I must say, if you have a focal point, you are creating something for viewers to look at first, right? So you're inviting your viewers. And so your painting is more become more inviting. And then after that, you have, of course, it's not the only thing. You need to show other things that are interesting. And then viewers' eye will be entertained in the rest of your painting. And then that way you engage the viewer, right? So that is very important. So what could be my focal point? I don't really decide from the beginning because I don't know. So I let it choose me. I always say that I don't choose the subject, I mean, the focal point or subject. And I let it choose me. So that's really the starting point when I go outside and paint. Whereas when I work from a photo, which I do in my studio, it's different. I have to kind of go backwards. But because when I take a photo, I usually use my photo because something grabbed me. So the photo taking process is the same as the plein air painting. Something grabs me, inspires me. It's like, take a photo of it, right? But when I use a photo, I already know that, right? So it's kind of backward. But that's important for all of us. I think what is the inspiration for this painting? What is this painting about? You don't want to, to confuse the viewer. I think we need to be nice to the people who look at our painting. So this is what I want to say to you. This is what I want to communicate. To me, painting is a communication, and it's very important for me to make it simple, easy for the viewer as well. And then it works for us artists as well. So to simplify is something you need to do outside or inside, no matter when you paint, how you paint, where you paint, right? So I will talk about a little bit of that. But outside, I think the few things, you don't need to think too much, when you're in the studio, but you need to think when you're outside, practical things. And like here in San Diego, it's almost always sunny. It can be very hot and uncomfortable. So first thing I look for is a shadow, usually. And then elsewhere as well, I look for shadow so I can be in it and to paint from there. But if you have an umbrella, and I do have an umbrella, so it shouldn't be a concern. But it's important for you to be comfortable the whole time you're painting. And then also it helps if you know how the sun moves, right? Sun is over here right now, but it will move somewhere. It's about which direction. Because the sun moves, light changes. What does that mean? And the values change. And that is bad news for us, especially the watercolor. And once the values change, light becomes dark, dark becomes light. And of course, and that confuses any kind of painter, not just watercolorist. But for us, yeah, somebody say something?
Can I ask you a question about something you said? When you start and you see shadows, the sun is out, do you try it? Is there a better, like the shadows to the right and left, front and back? Is there a preferred place for those shadows?
No, I didn't mean, when I said shadow, a shadow for me to be in.
Yes.
Yeah, so I can be in the shadow, not in the sun, not in the sun.
Right.
I don't want to paint in the sun. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
All right. But to your question, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It depends. And you want the shadows to run in your painting from right to left to right, and it's your choice. Yeah. So, but anyway, what was I saying? I forgot. But anyway, really, I forgot.
We're talking about the sun moving across.
Oh, yeah, sun. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's well, maybe it's somewhat related to what Anne just asked me. So how, if you know the sun, how the sun moves, even if the shadows are not really, not interesting in front of you, and you can sort of predict, in an hour from now, how the shadows will become, right? Longer or which way, right? Yeah, so you can paint a scene 1 hour from now, if you can guess how the sun moves. And so that is very important, and I always think about that. And of course, on a cloudy day, it's not an issue, but yeah, on a sunny day, here it's almost always sunny. And also safety, so important. Yeah, even if you go out with your friends, once you start painting, you're in your own world, right? So, and you're outside and you're exposed and very vulnerable. So you have to think about safety, very important. And also the proximity to important things like bathroom and, you know, the park, you know, your car, if you forget something. And yeah, so several things to think about, which are not really, you know, not even an issue when you're painting outside. Okay, so once you arrive at the scene and then you decide, you go through all that I just talked about, and then you decided what to paint, and you set up. And usually I do a sketch, small sketch, before I start a painting. But I have to admit, I don't do this every time. It's better if I do. But at least I say this to my student: you gotta do a sketch. You gotta do a sketch. So, you know, what kind of sketch? You know, I have some examples that I can show you. These are, well, even in the studio, I do sketch, and it always helps. You know, small sketch. It could be colored, it could be a monochromatic, and it could be very small, like this, almost like a thumbnail, right? Yeah, and I use sometimes paints, marker, pencil. Well, I have a lot of pencil sketches. Yeah, but you get an idea. Sometimes I do a little bit more than a sketch, and I take notes, and yeah, like that. So yeah, preliminary work. So sketch is part of preliminary work. More you do, the more it helps you, and you have there is a better chance that you have a pretty good painting at the end. So I always advise not to skip this. You know, it's part of the process, and actually you're making a painting, and in your sketch, right? And you know, here actually the paintings are already done. Composition, the color notes, and then all the details. You know, sometimes I put in the sketch, sometimes I just take notes, and everything is, all the information I need to make a painting is there. I don't need anything else. No photo, no looking. You know, if I'm outside, no more looking, and you know, I can strictly work from this little sketch, because everything I think I need to finish a painting is there. So that's the purpose. The more you do in your sketch is better. But you know, the most important thing is the composition and the values, right? Like this monochromatic sketch, that's usually more helpful. You know, the colors, you know, either I'm seeing it or I can invent it. You know, it's just my common sense, and or just be creative. And I don't always use the same colors that I see. But there has to be a color harmony in the painting. So I sometimes use a different color or change a color. Okay, so in today's painting, I kind of started doing a sketch, and I haven't completed it. And so I want to work on this, and then I will do a painting after that. But this is not going to take away a painting, my demo and a painting time. Actually, it helps me. If I do this, I can paint faster, right? So what I do here is the value sketch. Right now, I'm not really showing you what's light, what's dark. So that's what I want to do. I wanted to show you. So I'm using this pencil. Yeah, I have a 4B here, and I have is it HB? Yeah, but they're not the regular pencils, water soluble pencils. I don't know if you use this, but I like this. I use this quite often to do value sketch. So I just grab the 4B, and this is watercolor paper, and actually Fabriano. I'm doing it on the watercolor paper. I just shade the dark side, not the sunny side. So sun, in this painting, sun is on my right side, okay? So it's the light is coming in this way. So all the buildings not facing the sun should be dark, right? So that's why I shade like this. So it's that if you remember the photo I showed you a few minutes ago, that was almost like a midday, and the sun's quite high. But since the sun was on my right side, there's a shadow and light. Very nice contrast. So I just dark shade, yeah, the dark areas. And it doesn't really need shadows. You know, some of them are shadows, but some of them are not. Just dark values. Yeah, like this. And then it's very quick, and I use the, you know, the side of it, and so I can shade quickly. Yeah, I'm gonna use a portrait format today to do this painting. And then after that, I can just leave it like this, and I don't have to do anything else. And because I see the light dark and, you know, clear distinction, and where I need the contrast, it's all clear. I don't need any more information. But the reason I'm using this pencil is because I can do a little bit more on top of this. So I just put the water where I shade it, you know, so the result will, in terms of values, it's the same, but it creates a little bit more interesting look. And also, if I want to soften the edges here and there, and it can be done. And so that's another reason I like putting water. Yeah, so it doesn't take a long time, and it's not a big sketch and big size. Yeah, I don't really do all the details. Plus, I have painted this place nearby many times, so I think I almost remember what's there. Yeah, but the purpose, the reason why I do value sketch like this, and I always tell people do it, is because, you know, in case light changes, and everything will change, the value scheme, it will change. Yeah, so I don't have to be confused by the change. You gotta have something like this, and that's solid, it doesn't move. And if you want to add more details to it, you can take notes, or I usually take a photo with me too, in case I need more information once I start painting. I can look at it. And so, and also this pencil, you know, I can keep adding, or I can darken more if the darks are not strong enough. Yeah, but I don't really need the details. It's just the big shapes in the composition, and either dark or light. For me to decide that, that's pretty much all I do in the sketch like this, right? So this, you know, the composition, yes.
Do you have a focal point yet, or when do you start thinking about that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I do think about focal point, and not in the middle of the sketch, before I do. So I like this part of the building and its reflection, but you know, I don't want to have triple focal points, so I make more this and a little less because it's a reflection. So I want to have a lot of contrast for this. Yeah, if you hear noise, sorry, they're washing, power washing outside. I wish they would do it at a different time, but they'll go away soon. So yeah, so this, I want this to be a focal point in this painting. Okay, and then usually focal point should, you know, looks strong because of the contrast. If you don't have a contrast, even if you say that's my focal point, we don't see it that way. So in other words, anything can be a focal point as long as you give it a nice strong contrast to it. Yeah, that's my opinion. All right, so this is the composition. This is my value plan. And you know, the colors we all know, so I would do it. And it's quite simplified. You know, there are lots of like flowers over there, right? And then maybe this building is probably more ornate, and that building too. Yeah, that sort of thing. Either eliminate, or, you know, if there's so many of the same thing, you just reduce the number. That's one way to simplify. And just don't do too much just because it's there. Yeah, and many people tend to do that or tempted to do that, but we have to resist the temptation. Yeah, sometimes you have to be very bright and eliminate the whole thing. And in fact, I am eliminating all the flowers over there. That's what I'm thinking of doing in my painting, because I like more, in this part to show. I like to show more people walking there, and to have flowers and people, everything. It's going to, make this area too crowded. Yeah, so that's it. And if I want to have some vegetation, not the flower beds over there, because we all know that lily pads in this pond. So maybe I'll show a little bit of those in the far away side of this pond. Yeah, but not the outside water. Plus, I have lots of trees and yeah, and lots of times when I do a painting outside, I like to have nature and the man-made structure. I like the combination. So I need to show some vegetation, plants, trees, whatnot.
Question.
Okay. Yes.
When do you start thinking about color?
Well, I think about everything when I do a sketch, especially when I'm on the scene. I try to create, or I try to finish a painting in my head when I'm doing a sketch. So, it's not just the composition and values, even though that's what I do in my sketch. I think of everything else. So, it's already, yeah, but I already showed you the photo. So I like the color field to be like that. It's a nice sunny day, not a gloomy day. Okay, so more bright colors I want to show. And we all know the colors of the building over there, right? And then in the reflection, it's just, it's a reflection. I just have to repeat it, but a little bit more muted. So outside the water, more bright in the water, slightly gray, but I hope for this to be a warm and a slightly colorful painting. Yeah. Do you have any questions so far about anything I said or I haven't said? No? Everything good? All right. So I will keep this sketch on my side and you won't see it, but I will show you my drawing. I will do a drawing, and I always do when I paint. So I'm gonna just cover this camera so you won't see my room, messy room. All right. So this paper is not Fabriano. I did the sketch on Fabriano paper, but it's I'm using arches. Okay, and not the landscape format, the portrait format I'm gonna use. And I don't draw everything, and that I want you to know, first of all. So that my drawing will be already simplified, and it could be looser. I don't really use ruler for the building. Sometimes I see my students do that in my workshop. They say, well, in my class, ruler is not allowed because I can't make a straight line. I don't want them to do a better job than me. Okay, so let's see. Well, what I'm trying to do is, I'm not really struggling, but I'm trying to see the painting here. I'm trying to visualize the finished painting. And so sketch is helping me. I don't really have the photo. I didn't print out. So I'm not really looking at the photo, just the sketch and also the memory from many times of painting there. That's basically all I'm using as a reference, sketch and memory, okay? So, but I need to see the painting on this, blank sheet. Once I start seeing the image, then I feel confident enough to draw. Even the familiar scene, it's always like that. I need to see the painting here. So this painting is more, well, about this part of the Balboa Park, but I love the reflection. So I want to show the water, the pond, more. So actually the horizon is quite high in this painting. And then I will do the buildings on top in a smaller size and section of the paper. Yeah, so again, this is a sketch. Okay, I'm gonna do, the proportion is mostly the same. So I can almost copy this composition because I like it. Sometimes I feel I don't do a good job in my sketch, and I use use a different idea, not too different. I change the composition slightly in my drawing. Sometimes I do that. But this one, I think its composition is good. Yeah, so that's the area I liked, right? So it's almost like two towers, but I know this was more ornate than this one. And then this is kind of partially hidden behind the palm trees. So this will become more prominent. So that works. All right.
Are you thinking about perspective or just drawing kind of what you see?
You have to think always when you do buildings, you have to think about perspective, especially if you're showing two sides, like here, this side and that side, this side and that side, this side and this side, that side. Yeah, if you're showing so in other words, corner, if you're showing a corner of a building, you need to think about perspective. Yeah, and you cannot, well, I mean, even if just draw and paint what you see without no knowledge, without knowledge about the perspective, it will look okay, it will look fine. But if you know it, you can be more sure, right, well, that you're doing the right thing. So I think everybody should learn about something about perspective. So you can be confident when you paint. I think the confidence is very important. Cannot fake it, and so take some time to learn all the important things, and they're not many. Okay, so I think, oh, that is so loud. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, maybe I'm gonna show some people closer to the pond in my sketch, and I put all the people walking in the background. So this may be like a secondary focal point. I think that is important that you sort of spread the interesting elements, throughout your painting. So our eye doesn't get stuck on the focal point, right? So how to do that? Well, I mean, there has to be kind of nice flow in your painting. So it's not really a clear path, but I always say you have to have like a passage of light or passage, just some sort of passage in your painting. And so, the viewer's eye will kind of travel through the passage, and you place interesting elements along the passage. Yeah, so their eye will be entertained, and little by little, from the vanishing point to the other side. Okay, so yeah, this area in my sketch is not very clear, but as long as I have a light here and a little bit on the roof, that's good. So actually, that's it. I'm not going to draw anything here because it's just a reflection. So mostly the buildings will be reflected, right? And but anything that's near the water should be reflected, or something tall, even if they're far away. Yeah. So I'm showing the sky kind of like in the V shape right here. So that has to be reflected, not the clear V, but the upside down V. All right. So that's it. Usually my sketch is, takes me a few minutes, but lots of things, important things, I already thought about it and decided, or I will do that while I'm drawing. And so, if you can draw in just a few minutes, all the important decisions are made during that time, how can it possible? Well, there are not many things you need to decide. I mean, for your planning. Yeah, so decisions are for your planning. I'd rather be painting more spontaneously without worrying about things. So there are only a few things that I need to plan ahead. So just a few decisions that I have to make. So it doesn't take a long time. So those are usually, composition. Well, without composition, about any idea about composition, you can't even begin to draw. So you have to have a good composition. But to have a strong composition, it's good. You already know what your focal point is, and then you design your painting around it. And also that, just like a few minutes ago I said, you know, the passage in your painting, and you distribute the important and interesting things along the passage. And so your composition, you know, should be built on those ideas and maybe more. And the next thing is values. So light, dark, contrast, right? So that's the reason I do a sketch for values, especially for values. And if we're not clear about the value, you know, values in our composition, you may have a good painting, but I have to say, especially if you're outside, light changes, values change, and you get confused, and you most likely will darken everything, or just end up with a nice painting, colorful, but no depth in it. That sort of painting. So if you want the nice, you know, depth, space, and harmony and contrast and all those important qualities of design in your painting, I think it's critical, essential that you do this and then work with it, because light will change, everything will change, especially if it's taking you to finish your paint, you know, the 2-3 hours to finish your painting. At the end, by the end, this will not, everything will look totally different. This will not be in front of you. So that's what I do. When I decide, I don't change my mind. I don't change my plan. The trouble is, well, the problem is sometimes after the light changes, the scene looks better than what I saw and in the beginning. Then I feel so tempted to change. Well, if it's possible, I'll do that. But I have ruined so many paintings by choosing to change in the past. So right now, I just stick to it. Once I made a plan, I stick to it. Yeah, sometimes that requires a lot of determination, and you have to be very stubborn. Yeah, but at least you won't be confused. And feeling confused during the painting is not a good thing, right?
Keiko? Question?
Yeah.
So back on the perspective, do you do it so often you just kind of intuitively know how to put it in, or did you have in your mind where like the vanishing point might be? So when you did the build.
Okay. Yeah, so perspective, I didn't plan to talk too much about it today, but since you seem to be very interested, I will. So the horizon is there. Actually, I drew a horizon there, and I put the not the focal point, vanishing point right there. So this line is going there, this line is going there, and this line, and this line, and this too. And so, and this too. So there are several things, lines actually, that need to go there, and the vanishing point. So it is, like I said, if you're showing a corner of a building, you need to work with vanishing point. You need to find the vanishing point. Yeah. So in my painting, that's where it is.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to start painting. Is that okay? Yeah, I lost my eraser. Oh, here it is. So I'm going to erase some of the lines because they don't bother me too much, but I don't want to see too many lines. So I'm going to do first part of, oh, sorry. I hope I didn't hit the camera. The first part of the painting. If you saw my demo in March, I think you remember, I did the first wash and then I finished the painting with a second layer. Lots of times I paint that way and no more than 2 steps. And so today will be probably like that. So where to start, it doesn't really matter because everything needs to be painted anyway. The only thing that I don't want to paint is if there's anything white, I have to go around it because I never mask anything. I don't even have masking fluid. So I'm gonna start from here, I guess, and the water. Yeah, I put a little bit of a greenish color there. I started with a very pale yellow behind it. Yeah, but it doesn't show up so heavily diluted, just almost water. But near the bottom of the pond, I want to show a bit more colors and reflections, mainly from the sky. So it's a blue sky. It's a very sunny day. So I'm putting the cobalt blue here and a bit of purple. Like that. Yeah, this is not water anymore, but the pavement on both sides, that slightly cooler blue-purple mixture. But I want to do, so now the paper is all wet here, and I want to do more. I could stop and let it dry, and then do this part in the next step. But since this is not really a step-by-step demo, I will do the whole step together, and this will be just one layer, just one painting, one, finished in one go, kind of thing. So these are part of the darker reflections. So coming from the big trees and some of the buildings near the pond. But I gotta save the light here. I have to be careful not to lose it. Since it's the water and the water is moving slightly, I want to show that movement as well. Yeah, it's wet, but not terribly wet. It's yes, slightly wet. So you can see the paint that I'm dropping right now are not spreading too fast. That's a kind of wetness. It spreads slightly, but not too much. I'm being careful here because I don't want to lose the light here. And then I will let it dry, this part, and then so I can place more on top of it. So, well, it's not exactly a one layer painting. I need the second layer to some parts of this painting. And yeah, I guess if I don't paint, if I don't do, no, this is wet and wet, right? If I don't use wet and wet, I can finish the painting in one go. But if I use wet and wet, and then I need a contrast inside, it's impossible to do it in one go. Yeah. But that's another thing. If you want to finish, if you don't have enough time out, when you're working outside, but if you want to finish the painting, yeah, probably doing wet and wet, using wet and wet too much inside your painting is not really a good thing to do. But without doing it, the painting will look very tight. And if, I don't really like that kind of look. So I have to make sure if I want to finish, I don't have much time, and I still want to do wet and wet, I have to make sure I don't wet the paper too much, just a little bit. And then I have to make sure it'll dry fairly quickly so I can safely place a second layer on top. All right, so I slightly wetted the paper near the buildings. So I will use this orange and maybe a little burnt sienna. Oh, wait a minute, maybe a rose sienna is better. Yeah, I really want a more warmer feel in this painting. Yeah, only the bottom part of the buildings I wetted, but the top part is not really wet, so it's dry paper under behind it. The buildings too, the sunny side, I I will not do any more. This is color, the sunny side of the buildings. But the other side, I need to put another color on top of it to show shadows. So yeah, again, 2 layers required. But the sunny side, I'm trying to finish, right? So I have to make sure I'm happy with the color and the value, both. And this is something we all know, but sometimes tend to forget, is that watercolor will look lighter when it dries. So if you're trying to finish, you have to, see the value slightly darker. And then once it's dry, it'll be just right. That's something we need to keep reminding ourselves. And if you're going to put another layer, maybe you don't have to worry too much. You can sort of adjust the value in the next stage. But if you're trying to finish, you're not going to do anything to it anymore. You have to show the right color and the right value, but the value will change once it dries. So you have to go slightly darker. Yeah, so the buildings are like that, but there are some like plants, and especially if they're in front of it. I want to do it now. Yeah, so the plants, there's some vegetation, not just directly in front, but in front anywhere. I want to do it now. So the buildings are still wet. Anything I do inside, it will have a soft edge. Let's finish the sky. Right now, I'm just putting the water. Well, water is stained, so it's not really clean water. I will put this slightly blue on the very top. I don't want to show the blue sky all over. Plus, I'm not really showing too much sky anyway, so just the top. And the rest of the sky will be left with a little grayish color. But there are more trees behind the buildings, so I will put them in. And then, I have an even smaller sky after that. So those trees in the back, those two, if I want them to have soft edge, the paper is wet now, so it's a good time. But everything is wet. I have to be very careful because they're behind. I don't want those colors, that I'm going to use for the trees in the back to go inside the building. Then they won't look like they're behind. I have to be very careful. And then I'll try one spot like that and then see how fast it spreads. It's spreading, but very slowly. So the paper is not terribly wet, you can tell. Right, so, but I have to know, because I didn't draw the trees, I have to know how big they are. And even if they spread, and if it's the right side, it's all right. So that's another reason I needed to see the finished painting, before I began to draw for a time like this. So that means I already know all the elements and the size and shape, and not very clearly, but overall, it's done in my head. So this time I'm just trying to make it happen, make it visible. Yeah, like that. So I'm not going to do the flower beds over here. So there will be just people walking. And then and I have 2 people here. But they're kind of there because I painted around them. But all the other people haven't done anything. So maybe I'm going to drop some colors where I want to show people. Or maybe it's too wet, I don't know. I tried to find a drier place. Yeah, every time you paint inside, you know, we paint something inside a wet area, you really have to be careful. Yeah, that to know the good timing. Yeah, you don't have to wait until it's totally wet, they're dry, and you can work in the wet paper, because that's how you create a soft edge. And if you keep avoiding it, everything you paint will have a hard edge, and you may not like it. It's my opinion, but I think a painting should have both hard and soft edges, and you just have to find a nice balance. At least that's what I do. So some paintings, you know, may have more hard edges, whereas the other paintings may have more soft edges. And so, you know, I don't really say you have to have like a 30% hard edge, 70% soft, or something like that. There's no rule. I don't create a rule even for myself, but there has to be a nice balance for that particular painting. So each painting is different, but because of the percentage, you know, the balance, more hard edges or more soft edges, yeah, it does create a different feel in the painting. So I just have to strike the balance. And also something you can do while it's wet is, I just did it, right? Like a splattering. It didn't show up much, but maybe if I use a color, it will be more visible. Or just one dot went inside the sky. Yeah. Yeah, very subtle, but it does create an interesting texture look. So I think this is it. This is the first part of the painting. And even though this part I started from here, yeah, I painted it quite a long time ago. It's still kind of wet, and I'd rather dry it a little bit more. So whatever I do on top of it will have not too soft edge, you know, more defined edges. That's what I want. Okay. So let's look at the photo, not the photo, sorry, the sketch. Yeah. Well, I already have roughly the planned value structure already in this painting. Light areas in this sketch are light, darker areas are slightly darkened, right? Even though it's not so well contrasted like this in the sketch, but this is just halfway. So dark areas will be even more dark after the next stage. But it's already happening, you know, this the plan I made, it's already there. Yeah, so that's what I tried to do. So the first wash, I just put the colors everywhere, but I'm already thinking about the finished painting, how I want to create a contrast, you know, at the end. So I tried to show it, yeah. So mid values, I don't. You don't have to do. I don't feel I have to do in this value sketch. It can be done just two tones, light and dark. But the mid values are so important that you know, because it's in between transition. When you transition from light to dark or dark to light, you have mid value. So you have to think about it, and you can even take care of the mid value areas in the first wash. And that's what I do. I do if light and mid values both. And sometimes I even put the darkest values from the beginning. And if I don't need the second layer, why not wait? Why wait, right? So I just do it. And so, but usually it's kind of like this. And after the first wash, everything is kind of blurred, and some things are defined. But the definition, you know, I try to define shapes even more. I do that more in the latter stage of the painting, not the beginning part. So everything's kind of blurred, and but the color feel and also the value structures already emerging. So if I see it, I'm happy with the result of this stage. Yeah, and I can be more confident that for the next stage, all I have to take care of is not to put the darkest darks and just create more contrast. Okay.
Question.
Maybe I can take some questions because it needs a little bit of time to dry.
Yes. Do you ever use blow dryers, or you just let it air dry?
Oh, I don't use a dryer. I let it dry naturally. Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes. Keiko, hi, Anne. So on the placement of your people, do you kind of use them to help the eye move around, I guess. So what's your thought on how you would want to move them around in this picture?
All these people?
Yeah. Yeah, I think you had some two larger ones. I don't know on the right side.
Oh, yeah, I have, but I have many people in the back.
Yeah. So how do you do that? I'm sure it's not random. It's,
Well, without them, I have nothing. I just I have a plant or the small trees there, and then I will put the palm trees and make them look like they're coming from this area. So but that's pretty interesting enough. But I felt because I'm going to show people over there in the back. And even here, I could have a person or two, and even though I didn't do anything, it's still possible. So those, it's a very different element. It's not the building, it's not the water, and something else, right? And they're all kind of concentrated near the horizon. So I just didn't want them to be totally inside the painting. Without them, they'll be just here, right? So I wanted to kind of go outside the area. So, if somebody looks at a person, their eye will follow, other people.
Do you have a color strategy that you want to bring out with the people in their clothing?
No, well, it depends on how strongly they should look in my painting, how much contrast they need. So, my decision is usually based on that thinking. But otherwise, yeah, I don't usually show everybody in the same way. Just a few, if you're showing a crowd that actually paint. Everybody else is just illusion. So that's the kind of thing I wanted that to happen in this painting. Yeah, so it may be still possible to show a few more people here, so it'll be more balanced. So it depends. It depends on the choice, how important they are in your painting. So they can be all dots, even these two people. If I just wanted to show the reflection and the buildings and the reflection, and they're not so important, right? And plus, this is just how they look right now, but it's not finished. I would do something to them. I mean, that I would change the look in the next stage.
This is Rebecca. I have a question just about plein air in general.
Yeah.
When I have done plein air painting, I'm not an expert at all, but I get so discouraged because my dries so fast. Do you have a way, in San Diego it's so warm or it's, dry. Saturate your paper more to keep it in that moist state to work?
Yeah, that's why you have to look for a shadow first, or buy yourself an umbrella, especially made for plein air painting. There's a few kinds out there in the market, right? Yeah, but just don't paint in the sun. And also try to avoid a windy day, or try to find a shelter at the corner. Yeah, wind and sun, it's the worst combination.
It's so hard to keep it moist.
In a place like where we live, yeah. But I don't really change the way I paint. I'm not that good, and so if I wish I could do that. Try to work. Use more water so painting doesn't dry too fast. But I can't change it, and so yeah. Well, that's really the first thing I say. And also, don't go out if you have a choice. Don't go out in the middle of the day when it's warmest. right? Yeah, when
Yeah,
the
that's
temperature
better.
cool down. Yeah, I mean the
Well, you're very
morning or
fast. You're way faster than I am.
well, actually, I don't know. I mean, I never thought I was painting fast until I started teaching. But before that, nobody saw me painting, right? Because I was alone most of the time painting. And then so many people started saying, "Oh, you paint so fast," and then I realized maybe I do. But looking back and just working outside all the time from the beginning, I told you I started going out almost immediately after I started painting, right? That trained me, you know. I mean, I learned so much by painting outside, and not just to improve my painting, but also, yeah, the speed. I had to paint fast, you know. I mean, it was frustrating in the beginning, and you know, for the same reasons you have and you said. But
Spray your painting with
yeah,
water.
everybody will learn. If I can learn, you can learn too. Really. So if you want, well, the speed is not the most important thing. But I think for this kind of style, it's not really you know, realistic or hyper realistic, and it's not too tight. It's more impressionistic, right? This style, if I may call it that way. So I think the speed is somewhat important. If you work too slowly, and you know, it's not always that, but you know, it could mean you have more hard edges.
Yes.
Yeah. So that definitely will make your painting look tighter if you have more hard edges, because you are defining a shape, you know, shapes and that way. So yeah, you need to paint fast, and I had to say. And then to me, the best training I had was just working outside. Yeah, and also it helps you to simplify because the light changes so fast, and you're not comfortable, and the people come and bother you, and for whatever reason, you want to go home soon. So you kind of feel compelled to get it done fast, right? So that forces you to just paint just the important things, not to worry about other things. You know, I want to finish this fast. I want to finish this fast. That's how I was feeling. Not really, and other people didn't bother me, and I didn't. I even enjoy chatting up the people who came, but a lot of people seem to be almost annoyed by it when they're painting outside, or distracted. Yeah, not annoyed, distracted.
Keiko,
So yeah, I think it's important. Yeah, just to simplify everything and get it done quickly. Usually, the painting result is better that way. Yeah. Sorry, who was trying to say something?
Oh, this is Mary. Keiko, do you have a preference of 300-pound or 140-pound paper? Is the first part of the question when you're plein air.
Well, I mean, plein air, almost always I use 140 pounds. I rarely use 300.
Okay.
Takes longer to dry.
You mentioned Fabriano a few times. Have you noticed that it gives you a better quality than Arches now?
Quality, you mean in your painting?
The Fabriano versus Arches.
Well, quality is the same. They're both professional quality. And well, they may have a student grade paper, but as long as you're using a professional grade paper, both are good, high quality paper. But they are very different, mainly because of the difference in sizing, how they size the paper. So you just need to get used to it if you change, and that difference might, you know, surprise you, or you know, create something. You know, you may have surprises in your painting if you paint the same way, but very minor, I should say, that you get used to it. Both are very good papers. I don't really favor one over the other. It's just different. So when I use Arches, when I use Fabriano, I have to, you know, in my way, I know the difference, and so I will kind of adjust the way I paint. You know.
Thank you.
Keiko, have you used Kilimanjaro paper?
A few times, yeah.
To me, your paint just seems to kind of float on the top. I suppose it's the sizing, but it's hard to adjust to it when I'm used to arches.
So you mainly use arches, and
Right.
then a few times you use Kilimanjaro, and then it was not the same.
Yeah, it was really.
You floated, the paint floated, you said?
Yeah, it seemed to be much more slick, and I'm used to the paint.
Maybe I don't know Kilimanjaro very well. Okay, only a few times I know I used them. I don't even remember what I painted on it and how it was. But if that's how you feel, maybe you might want to soak the paper to remove the sizing a little bit, maybe.
So I've been told that Kilimanjaro is the same as Fabriano. It's made in the same plant. It's just at night.
Yeah, it's not. That's why I bought it, thinking, oh, okay, I'll try that. But it's
well, if you're perplexed by what happens on Kilimanjaro paper, you might even want to contact who made it, and then maybe ask for their advice. I would do that. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't have enough experience to say anything about it. So I will refrain from commenting on that.
Thank you.
Anything else? I think I can start the next stage if I may.
Sure. Let's do
All
it.
right. Okay. Just cover it. Okay. So yeah. So everything is quite dry. Not very dry, but dry enough for me. The paper buckled a little bit, and it's still warped slightly, but it shouldn't create too much problem. So what I had to do is, the dark end, the shadowy side, the buildings, and then reflections. And yeah, maybe I should do reflections first because I painted this first. It had more drying time. Yeah, but I already did a little bit of darker reflections here, so I just have to do mainly working here and then to bring the darks to be joined in this area. So the beginning, yeah, the colors are, I'm aiming for. I don't know if you see this as green. On my computer screen, it looks almost black. It looks almost like a different color. I don't know what you see on your screen. I'm sure everybody's seeing colors differently. The screens are very different, right? But I'm aiming for this kind of green, darker, deeper green. So
thank you for telling us that was green.
Do you see it as green?
Well, no, I was not seeing green, so I was glad when you told us it was green.
Yeah, but it's very deep, and it's grayed, and so it almost looks black, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm mixing Viridian and maybe burnt sienna. Oh, how's that? But the value is important, so this is the value I'm talking about, the darkest. Yeah, it's pretty close to the darkest value. So I haven't used this so far, even the darker areas, and I painted, not even close, right? So you can tell those look dark, but it's actually the mid-tone in this painting. Yeah, so this kind of dark I need for the light. Without darks, there's no light. I'm trying to show some lily pads over there. Although they may not look like lily pads, they may be just like ripples. That's okay. However, they may be interpreted. I just didn't want to make it like a solid dark. And on top of that, if you remember the color I used in the buildings, it was like an orange, maybe rose sienna mixture. or burnt sienna. I might have mixed the 3 instead of 2. So I'm going to raise the top of the paper a little bit. So if if the area is wet and then I drop color inside or paint inside, I will run down a little bit. So the dark green is slightly wet, but it's very thick. So, you know, it doesn't take a long time for that to dry. But I wanted to drop the colors of the building in it before the dark green was dry completely. Okay, so after that, I will make strokes slightly lighter and make them a little longer, bigger. And this area, actually, I want to wet it again, the lower bottom, with a spray, just a little bit. And I'll switch back to the bigger brush. So the buildings, all the buildings over there, maybe a little too far to have reflections, and I would have to look at the photo, but I decided to do it anyway, so have them reflected. So this is from there. This well, can I have a reflection here? I guess because the water, the edge is over here. But everything, you know, not just the buildings, everything that's near the water should have reflections. So I'm trying to do all of the reflection at the same time. Even the things that I haven't painted yet. Like I said, like palm trees, I wanted to do that. And so those are quite big. And long. So where I'm going to show palm trees, I didn't indicate, so you don't really know, but there'll be both sides. And I will try to show the reflections of that. Yeah, good thing I already did this area, and everything I just did, and I will kind of make it disappear into this area. That's why I rewetted this part of the painting. Yeah, I'll do more. So like a disappearing. And then also everything I did in before, it's not defined, no hard edges, everything's soft. So the transition from hard and rigid to softer, I needed to rewet the paper. Yeah, like that. So this way you can see perspective better. But actually, I didn't want too much hard edge around the pool. So just there. Actually, I'm kind of softening the edges. And doesn't mean water's overflowing. I just didn't want to define everything. It's the biggest shape in this painting, you know. So if I use the hard edges all around, that will kind of isolate this shape from the rest of the painting. Yeah. And just like I did here, I'm dropping this time like a purple blue mixture to slightly darken both sides in the wet area. Yeah, and also this is the kind of color I use underneath. So together it will create some kind of unity. Right, so I will just let it dry, and probably it'll be all right like this, and I don't need to do any more. I'm hoping. Just cut a little bit. Okay, so I guess I can do the main part. Well, main part is this, but the real scene, you know, this is more like an illusion. So the shady side of the buildings, I will have to pick a color, not the colors I use, and not the same color. Yeah, this is kind of green, purplish color. I do have a purple, but that would be, if I use that, that would be a little too bright, in my opinion. So I can start with that, or not use that at all, or I could just mix different colors to create a purplish gray. So it doesn't matter how you do it. But if you use a purple, pre-mixed purple, I would suggest you gray it a little bit. I mix cobalt blue and alizarin, and maybe a little bit of burnt sienna. I'll try that mixture first to see how I feel. All right. Yeah, maybe a little warmer. So either more alizarin or maybe this red, cadmium red, to make it warmer. All right, so the sun, again, to just remind you, on the right side. So only the right side of the building should be, sunny. So that's when the color is already there, I have to paint around. So it's just trying to show a little of the buildings, architectural features. Although I'm not an expert, so I hope I will look like ornate design, decorative feature. So the sunny side, the shady side, I'll just block it in. And I will keep using this purple mixture. Now this part, I'm not really sure what's happening. That's not an important part. Yeah, I think I'm happy with this purple, slightly gray. So I'll just keep using this. And if we mix, that's one thing I like about mixing darks. You can sort of change the color temperature. You can go light, you can go cool, you can go warm. You can change the color feel. You can go either way. It could be neutral. But if you use one color, you can't do that. So that's why I always recommend mix your darks. Now, of course, you can just use one color and then just warm it up, cool it down by dropping a different color to it. It can be done that way. Yeah, here too, I'm trying to show the interesting decorative feature. So a lot of negative paintings. If the light is complicated, how the light is, falls on these buildings, complicated, and yeah, it can be quite difficult to do all that negative paintings. But for that, so I won't get confused, I draw, you know, so this area I draw quite a bit. You just have to refine the pencil lines if they're lost. But usually I draw dark enough, I don't have to look for it, it's there. So I put the colors of the trees in the back. Yeah, they can be just like that, or I can add a little bit more. You know, that's it's a matter of preference. If I like a blurred look, and I wouldn't touch it, I wouldn't add anything. But if I feel that needs a little bit more definition, I try not to touch what's already done. I just add a few things around it. Like I'm adding a few, you know, dry brush strokes. And also, I use anything dark. Well, it's not really dark, but it's darker than the sky, definitely. And I use darks to define the lights, you know. So darks are quite important for the light because you are using them to define the look of light. Well, I guess this part, and I can darken everything. There's no sun hitting any side we're looking at. So here, like I said, and then just illusion of people walking. So I was not going to do too much. Plus, they're very small. Okay.
Well, what kind of, you have a little, that brush you've been using almost for the entire painting. What is that and what size is it? It's amazing.
The current one?
The one you have in your hand, yeah, that is a little.
What is a calligraphy brush?
It's
Calligraphy brushes are not numbered.
Oh.
And you can buy it in an art store. I mean, it's Asian brush, but you don't have to go to Asia to buy it. And usually, you know, they have this size, small size, or maybe a bigger size. You don't see many sizes. Usually 1 or 2 sizes. Yeah, no numbers. Yeah, but usually they're quite affordable. I mean, not expensive at all.
But it seems
if you go to like a special, I mean, you don't find this kind of special brush, Asian brush store in America. But if you have a chance when you go to Asia, you can go to brush store. You'll be amazed. There's so many different kinds, and the price is different. So maybe you can try different brushes. Not just price-wise. It's the hair. You know, animal hair. Yeah, they use all kinds of animal hair. And goats and, you know, fox, goat, bear, pig, and horse, and mix. Yeah, so many different kinds. So, but usually the shape is like this, you know, kind of round brush. You might find a flat brush as well. And I do have some flat brushes that I bought in Japan, like this. But I think you can find it in America too, right? This kind of flat brush. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so some of the trees, you know, behind these arches and should be there as well. Although I don't really mind leaving it, you know, light. I mean, there has to be light over there because I don't really want to lose the nice shapes of arches. But since I'm showing trees kind of almost behind, directly behind, it's strange not to show any greeneries underneath, I thought. Okay. Well, this is one of the advantages because I'm not really using the photo. I can just make up things, right? Nobody's looking at the photo. It's not the case usually when I'm teaching. Either we're outside and looking at the same thing, and students often stop me, Keiko, why did you change that? Why did you move that thing? And
I don't think you should.
it's obvious, right?
Duh.
But if I work from my imagination, yeah, anything can happen. But you know, if you ask me, there's always a reason. You know, when I change and something, you know, there's always a reason. So I will not say I don't know. You know, I will tell you why. It's just when I'm painting all by myself, I'm making all those decisions almost like intuitively, and I don't know what I'm doing. But if I'm pressed, you know, if somebody stops me, and then why, and I always have an answer. Yeah, so I would do those people right here. Maybe I'll do it now. I was gonna do palm tree there, but it's a bit too wet.
Come here. Come on.
Oh, I thought you were talking to me. Yeah, so even those people, right now, they're a bit too undefined. It's just because I said they're people, you may see people, but I wanted to show a little bit more, especially if they're, yeah, walking on the street over there. They should have some shadows. So I will try that kind of feel. And maybe a little different colors here and there. Yeah, there was a question about colors and how to decide what color to put in the people, especially if there are many. Yeah, it's always difficult. I kind of have to make a choice one by one. I don't really have a rule for that. Yeah, I just make a decision one by one. Okay, so I hope you see more real looking people there. But the colors always, you know, I'm striving very hard and, you know, always try my best to have a color harmony in the painting. So I don't want anything to stand out too much color-wise, especially if they're not so important thing. They shouldn't. Is that good? I hope that's enough. So now nearing these two people, and I have to decide what to do in them. Yeah, I left white here, but I didn't mean to, actually. I just didn't want it to be green, so that's why I painted around him. And they're a bit different from all the other people. One, they're closer, and they're more defined, and they're more contrasted, and so for lots of reasons, they're different. Yeah, they're kind of like a secondary, you know, focal point, if I may call it that way. Yeah, I have something on that side of the painting. I need something on this side of the painting. So I wouldn't put them right here, you know, them interested, kind of concentrate one side of the painting. I did think about showing more people here, but it's not to. Simpler the better. That way, you know, I try to distribute and weights. Well, important things are heavier, try to distribute the weight, not evenly, but in a balanced way, you know. I think maybe it's safe to palm trees. Yeah, so timing is really the most important thing, whether you paint inside or outside, but especially outside. You know, how fast the paper dries, how slow the paper dries. Yeah, a lot of edges, you know, depends on your ability to judge when the good timing is, especially the soft ones. Even the hard ones, you know, you thought maybe the paper is dry enough, but not, you know, actually it was not, and so you mess up. So usually, one of the common mistakes about the misjudgment of the timing. But everybody will learn after making maybe a few dozens of mistakes. I did too, and I still make mistakes. It is hard. Yeah, but you cannot be just waiting forever. And that's my attitude. And I'll just do it and see what happens on the paper. If I'm not sure, I just do it. And yeah, most of the time, if you detect a problem while it's happening in the beginning part, if you take care of it, usually it's okay. You can fix it. The worst thing is you just leave it. Sometimes we don't know it's going to be a problem or not. Something's happening, but we're not sure it's going to be a problem or not. I just move on and paint something else. And then when you look at that later, much later, and it was a problem. That I don't want that to happen. So if I'm not sure, I may move on to the next area, but I kind of keep an eye on it. So if the problem is getting bigger and bigger, I go back and fix it. I think that's important. And if you take care of your problem early on, yeah, most of the time you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to fix it, whatever that problem was. Okay, so I think I'm gonna finish up by adding more shadows. Yeah, this area. Yeah, the sun. If you look at here, you can see the sun is over here. This area is a bit ambiguous. I want to show a little more shadows, maybe, without making it look too busy or too interesting. Yeah. And then also to kind of hide these people in the shadow, so they won't look too prominent. Do you see all the way? Maybe I moved the paper, didn't I? So you didn't see the bottom of the painting. Yeah, I didn't realize. Maybe the camera moved. I apologize. Yeah, so the rest, I feel painting is done. So, but I don't put down the brush. Usually I take a good close look, and then I can find a few areas that I need to, not to fix, but just to tweak or to make it better. I can usually find a few spots. In this painting, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, what are those? This part, if I'm in plein air, at this point, I'll just pack up and go home and then do those little things at home. Sometimes on location, but this part, it doesn't have to be done right away. Sometimes it is hard to see. And once it's dry, nice and dry, then you see. If there's a part that's not done, you can find it easily. And so sometimes it's better actually if you wait and look at it later on. Yeah, these little things are probably not there, not sure, but I just wanted to sort of repeat this blue. Yeah, starting with this guy and then all the windows. And I need a little bit here as well. And then splatter. And then maybe in the water as well. Actually, surprisingly, this is still wet. Yeah, where I'm painting, usually the temperature is not high because it's facing the southwest and it's warmer in the afternoon, but in the morning it's quite cool, and the painting doesn't dry fast.
Keiko?
Yeah.
Any comment on windows, how many or how you make them, or just anything on that?
Windows?
Windows,
Oh, no, I wish I knew, the real and how it is in the real buildings, and because I'm not looking at the photos, right? So, but anyway, in the tower, the top of the tower, I have 2 towers, but this is the more important one. And I put 1, so I decided to do 2 there, and to show a little difference. So, but at the lower part, and I did the same way, 1 and 1. But otherwise, I didn't really think too much about the windows. I'm not showing too many windows anyway. I mean, how about 5 or 6, right? Yeah. Well, if there enough space, then maybe I would do more. But since the other parts of the buildings, both sides, are kind of covered behind the trees, and so I don't want to show anymore. That's enough. But this is the most important thing. Like I said, it's my focal area, right? So even in the water, I kind of have the color of the window reflected. I didn't do it there. I could have, but I didn't. Plus, I have something blue over there, so there will be too much blue. But I wanted this to be, to create this linear direction right here where I have my focal point, but I don't have much, interest or excitement here. So I decided to bring the viewer's eye by creating the dots of blue. And so there, I will move down here. And I have a little bit more texture look over here, not that side. So, and this is a very important part of the painting. Yeah, so those thoughts went in my mind. I'm aware of that. But otherwise, I don't know. That's all, I guess.
I would just like to say I'm very impressed by the foreground of this painting with the original wet on wet work that you did, and then later on let it dry, and then came in with the work in the upper kind of middle of the painting. The contrast between the harder edges and the soft illusionary stuff down below, it really sells the painting for me.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I don't always do this, but the foreground areas I abstract, quite often. Usually the more realistic look happen, in the midground, and not so much in the background. And it's not a pattern, and it's not a formula or anything like that. But I oftentimes I do that. Yeah, in the foreground is the closest area to us, right? So any objects that happen there will look larger in general, and I don't really want to define them too much, and they will become too much. Unless they're focal area, sometimes the focal area happens in the foreground. And
it really pulls your eye into the picture.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And tries to drown you in the pond.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Well, thank you. But yeah, well, I love this part of Balboa Park. I mean, I don't mind painting any part of Balboa Park. It's a beautiful place and it's very inspiring. But yeah, this especially, and everybody paints this. But for that reason, I was not gonna do. But the kind of light and atmosphere, by changing that, you can create many different versions of the same place, right? Yeah, but for this one, like I said, that light shining that part of the building, and also including this too, actually, only part that I'm showing the contrast in the buildings. Yeah, I really wanted to showcase that area.
Keiko, you could do a series of lily pond paintings, just like Monet did for his haystacks. You could do.
Oh. Yeah, true. Yeah, well, I like this part. I don't know if I'm going to do a series because I get bored quite easily if I paint the same thing again and again. I know every painting will be different. Yeah, but
Do you
okay,
ever think,
I'll remember that. Thank you for your advice.
do you ever think about how marketable a painting will be? Because obviously this is something people would love because it's so quintessential San Diego.
Oh, marketing? Well,
Yeah.
why don't we think about the selling when I paint?
You don't.
But San Diego, because I painted so many different places and I have so many different so many paintings, and so I published self-published 2 books on San Diego, and one book contains 100 plein air paintings of different locations in San Diego. I did the first one in 2014, I believe. And the second one I did in 2017, I think.
And are those available through your website?
I'm not selling it. You would have to order from Blurb. Have you ever heard of Blurb? You can order it from there, but I have links on my website. So if you go to my website, so for anything that you may be interested in, I have 4 DVDs and I have 6 or 7 books. Everything, I have links on my website. So you can go to my website and start from there. That'll take you to a specific page outside my website.
Well, thank you so much.
Your style has changed a great deal from 2014 to the next book?
I don't know. To me, I always try to paint a certain way, like an impressionistic look. Even before I didn't know anything about painting, that's the kind of painting I wanted to make. So I try my best in any point in my career, artistic career. That's how I try to paint. But I hope I'm getting better. I hope. Otherwise, I've been painting for 15 years and with no progress, and that would depress me a lot. But I think, the look of the painting is quite similar. Yeah. But you be, I don't know. You may be a better judge than if you can compare. Yeah.
Well,
But
thank you so much.
I get that question often, though. Yeah. Oh, did you always paint this way? And I said, I think so, because I'm still trying to do the same thing. Yeah. But more, I think my energy, my preliminary work when I try before I start painting, I'm more interested in composition. In the past, and I was okay with a kind of classic composition. I'm bored. I don't do that. Don't want to do that anymore. So I always look for unusual composition, a different composition. Nobody has ever painted, even the same spot, the familiar place, iconic place. Many painters have painted, and over the centuries. And I would still try to look for different composition. In the past, I didn't make that effort.
Well, Keiko, I just love your style, and I love how it always has like an ethereal feel to it.
Thank you.
So, I don't know, like coming out of the mist, but it's beautiful, just beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, atmosphere is one of the important qualities. Well, not just mine, but it's if I see a painting done by anybody, but if it's full of light and atmosphere, I'm always attracted, and I'll just keep staring at it. That's the kind of painting I like. And so, yeah, the light atmosphere, I'm sure that's important for you too. But to be able to express that effectively in your painting, there are certain things I keep in mind. And so I hope I talked about it. And I showed you in my demo, and then I just think just hope 1 or 2 things that I said in the past hour or so was helpful for you.
Yes, Keiko, your explanation as well as your painting, while you're doing them together, is very, very good for students. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it very much.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a question. It's Donna again. How did
Sure.
you figure out the colors to use there in the front of the pond as part of your underpainting? The dark.
Well, you know, first of all, I think I put the blue, right? So it's a, I mean, I said that already. It's a reflection of the sky. Yeah. So the lighter part of the reflection, the pond is a reflection of the sky. So that's actually what I did, and I started with a kind of yellowish tone,
Right.
because that's what I use in the lower part of the sky, and then I put the cobalt blue on top. So it's a reverse, you know, the color, you know, order-wise, right? But I needed to darken because I knew, you know, I would put the dark reflections for the buildings and palm trees in the second stage. But how do I want to finish those, right? Because this is should be the strongest. This area, you know, contrast, tonal contrast should be strongest. So if I just left without darkening the bottom of the, you know, the pond, it would create contrast here as well after I put the dark reflection from the buildings, right? And I didn't want that. So
Okay.
I needed to darken the bottom for no reason. Okay, I mean, there was a reason. That was a reason for me.
Okay.
So that it won't create too much contrast. The little bit contrast is fine, but here, you know, I didn't want the too, you know, strong areas.
Yeah.
So, you know, I didn't want to use a blue because that would make this paint a little too garish. So it's kind of muted, and also, you know, I knew I would use like a purplish, muted purple in my shadows, shaded areas. So it made sense to me to use a similar kind of purple right here. So that kind of, you know, tie everything together, you know, if you just look at the darks, you know.
And I guess it's kind of a complementary color to the building too, in a way.
Exactly. Yeah. Good point. Yeah. That creates color contrast, nice contrast. Yeah. But, you know, I use more orange in my building. So,
Right.
yeah, that is complementary is blue, right? But it's a cool, very cool purplish gray. So there's more blue in it. Yeah, so you're right. So it complements the warm orange colors over there. Yeah, very good.
Love it.
Any other questions or comments?
Just that we want to thank you very much. We've really enjoyed this, and we will try to have you back.
Oh, I'll be happy to.
Thank you so much.
You have a very nice group of artists. I love working with you. So I can't wait to see you again.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.